Hi friends, Kate with Jason Lee Swim and Tennis Club, and I am here to tell you all about how to purchase a membership or sell a membership, or how we refer to it is transfer a membership. So the secretary handles the membership transfers, and there's a couple of pieces that need to be in place. The first one is it pretty much all revolves around this little form right here, which is the transfer form. So you can find a transfer form if you are a current member. It will likely be found in an email attached to an email that was sent out at the beginning of the season. Or you can typically find them in the glass box at the pool. It's not glass, it's actually just like plexiglass because it's plastic. But anyway, so in the box at the pool. And you can also find them typically in the files on the Facebook group, or go ahead and reach out to any board member, especially the secretary, and they'll be able to connect you with the transfer form. Okay, so on the transfer form, there are 4 different sections. The first one is for the sellers who are selling their membership, for them to fill out all their information. Up here in this section, there is a spot that says your membership number. If you don't know your membership number, you can look it up on your original membership certificate. If you happen to have lost it or don't have your membership certificate, just leave that blank for now, and the secretary will help you figure out what it is when you meet with them, and they'll get it filled in for you. Okay, and this third portion down here is for the buyer, and the buyer needs to fill in all of their information. This second section is for a board member, and this portion is to confirm that a membership is available for transfer. According to our bylaws, a membership account needs to be up to date and paid for in order to be eligible to be sold. So this is important because depending on when the transfer happens, your membership transfer process could look slightly different. So this is because dues for the season and any fees, if a membership had fees for the previous season, dues and fees become payable on the first day of the swim season, which happens to typically be Memorial Day. So if those dues are due, then in order for a membership to be eligible to be sold, then that membership needs to have paid those dues up front. Okay, so just to clarify, if it's after the start of the season, your membership will need to pay the dues, and at the same time, that's when you'll be given your keys for the season and guest passes, and in order to be able to be sold. If it's before the start of the season, then the transaction might look a little different. So if it's before the start of the season, the transaction could look like a seller and a buyer would meet together, and they would have a transaction based on what the seller was selling the actual membership for. After which, the new member would then meet with the treasurer and make the transaction for the dues or any fees that were applied to that membership for the season. So I also just want to clarify that both dues and any fees that were attached to that membership will follow with the membership. So keep that in mind as you are either selling or buying, that you're very clear in your interactions whether you had any fees, and if it's at the beginning of this, if it's before the start of the season, those fees will carry and the new member will be responsible for those when they pay their dues. Or if it's after the start of the season, then you just want to clarify, what your price entails if you're trying to recoup any of those fees that you already paid. So I hope that makes sense, because there's 2 different parts to purchasing a membership. The first one is the actual sale of the membership, and then the other one is to pay the dues. So if it's before the season, there's going to be 2 transactions. If it's after the season, there's just going to be the 1 transaction with the seller and the buyer together. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that section that I was telling you about here, this second one right here that says board member, that one is for any board member to sign off that your membership is eligible to be sold. So again, if this is if this is before the start of the season, then this box will probably be the first one that you need to get filled out. And any board member can look up the information and make sure that you're up to date. So for example, if a membership was inactive for a year and you have dues stacked up from multiple years, those are going to have to be taken care of before that can be signed off. And a buyer may not know that. And so it's important that that part gets signed off before it is sold at the beginning of the season. If it's sold mid-season, then you could expect that if the seller has both their keys for the season and their guest passes that are available for that season, then their membership has already been paid for and is ready to go. But again, you'll just need any board member to look that up for you. So if you're having a transaction with the treasurer, paying your dues and everything to make sure that you're eligible to sell after the start of the season, then just take this with you and have the treasurer sign it off. Okay. So we went over the seller section, the buyer section. I do want to note here in the seller section, there is a line for the buyer to sign. So buyers, please make sure that you sign that we get your John Hancock up there. And on the buyers section, there is a little portion down here that asks if you received the keys or if you received guest passes. So at this point in time, we rotate keys out per season. So if you are purchasing either before season or after season, you do want to receive keys from the seller. And if you are selling, be sure that you pass those keys on so that they can turn them in and not be charged for extra keys. And then guest passes. If you have guest passes from a past season, they do you no good. And those are reprinted. Those are reprinted every year. And so you'll get new ones. If it is after the start of the season, then please make sure you pass on your guest passes to your new member. So buyers, you would just fill that out based on what your experience is, whether you've got them or not. If it's at the start, if it's before the season starts, when you have your transaction with the treasurer to pay the dues, then you will receive your new keys and your new guest passes. And then the final step, which is like super important, I can't stress this enough. The most important part of this is to meet with the secretary at the end and have them finish filling that out. Typically their name and phone number is there, but I blacked this one out because, it's the internet, so I did it. Okay, so this part right here, the final step would be to meet with the secretary. And this is important because the secretary finalizes the transfer. They're going to issue the new member a new membership certificate. They're going to make sure that they're on the email list so that if you're buying a membership, you'll know everything that's going on with the pool. You'll know when we open the next season. You'll know everything. And they also connect you. Well, they're likely the person that will connect you with the Facebook group, and they're the ones who finalize this form. So I kind of want to go over a short summary because there's a lot of information there, and I apologize, especially with the different scenarios. Sometimes it can get confusing. So, if you are selling or purchasing a membership before the start of the season, you can expect to have two transactions. One with the member who is selling, and that would be to pay for the membership itself. And then you could expect to have a transaction with the treasurer to pay your dues. And you'll want to make sure that this form gets filled out all correctly by the buyer, and that there's a board member that has signed off on it. And then you would fill out your buying member section, and then you would need to finalize with the secretary. The secretary doesn't need to meet with the seller at all, just the purchaser. Okay, so if it is, okay, let me finish that thought. Also, please make sure that you would receive the original membership certificate if they've got it. If they don't, it's okay. We can work through that, but it just makes my job harder, or the secretary's job harder. So if you've got it, please pass it on. And you'll also want to receive any keys that they've got. And if you're purchasing or selling after the start of the season, then the process would look like there would be one transaction, and that would be with the seller. And the price that the seller is selling is, you could expect, would include both the dues that they paid for the season upfront, as well as the price of the membership, or if they're recouping any fees that they owed. So just be clear in all of your conversations about what all of that entails and the state of where the membership is. Now, if it is after the start of the season, you would have that one transaction, and same form. The buyer would have it all filled out. Again, make sure the seller signs in there in the seller section. A board member would sign off on it, and then the buyer would fill out their information. And if it's after the start of season, then you need to make sure you have updated keys, and also the guest passes need to come with it. Okay, and then as well as if there's the original membership certificate. And then last step is still the same. No matter when you purchase it, get together with the secretary, because that's like super important. And we want to make sure that we keep track of all of our members, because we want you to be well in touch and get to use the pool to its full capacity. So I hope that helps, and good luck. And we hope to see new members there, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.